Hello there, you 501 wonderful subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. I am really happy to continue in delivering fantastic near-death experiences, and I hope we can continue to grow this channel. Today's narration is taken from the archives of neardeath.com and is narrated under the Fair Use Doctrine. Arthur Jensen was a near-death experiencer who received knowledge of reincarnation. In August of 1932, Jensen, a university graduate, geologist and staunch materialist turned syndicate cartoonist, decided to take some time off to research his weekly cartoon strip called Adventurous Willy Wispo. Since his main character was a hobo, Jensen for a while became a hobo himself. He was hitchhiking when a young man in a convertible picked him up on his way to Winnipeg. Going too fast for the road conditions, the car hit a 3-foot-high ridge of oiled gravel and flipped into a series of violent somersaults. Both men were catapulted through the cloth top before the car smashed into a ditch. The driver escaped unharmed, but Jensen was injured, losing consciousness just as 2 female spectators rushed to his aid. After seeing the afterlife during his near-death experience, he later learned that telling others about his NDE often brought criticism, especially from the church. But there were those who would listen, and as time wore on, more and more people would ask him about his experience. Finally, in 1955, 23 years later, Arthur Jensen published a report of his near-death experience after much public interest. His booklet, I Saw Heaven, which is now out of print, describes his NDE and gives him answers to questions he had always asked. I felt as if I were coming loose from my body. While I believed that my body was me, I knew instinctively that I had separated from it. I felt a short, sharp pain in my heart, which felt as though something had been torn loose. Then slowly and softly, I rose out through the top of my head. Gradually, the earth scene faded away, and up through it loomed a bright, new, beautiful world, beautiful beyond imagination. For about half a minute, I could see both worlds at once, the earth fading away and the other world looming up, brighter and brighter, and still brighter. Finally, when the earth was all gone, I stood in a glory that could only be called heaven. In the background were 2 beautiful mountains. The tops were snow-capped and the slopes were adorned with foliage of indescribable beauty. Since there was no pollution, no haze, or any other obstructions to my one's vision, all the details were sharp and clear. The mountains appeared to be about 15 miles away, yet I could see individual flowers growing on their slopes. I estimated my vision to be about 100 times better than that on Earth. While I stood there marveling, I saw 20 people beyond the first trees, playing and singing a dancing game, something like Skip to Maloo. They were having a hilarious time, holding hands and dancing in a circle, fast and lively. Their singing, their laughter, and even their shouting was melodious. As soon as they saw me, 4 of the players left the game and joyfully skipped over to greet me. Their bodies seemed almost weightless, and the grace and beauty of their easy movements was fascinating to watch. As the heaven people gathered around, the oldest, largest and strongest looking man announced pleasantly, "You are in the land of the dead. We lived on earth, just like you, till we came here." With unbound enthusiasm I shouted, "This is wonderful." "It's marvelous," they answered. Then With delight, they told me how I could swim around in the lake as long as I pleased, and when I came out, I would be dry, another one said. You can run, jump, dance, sing, and play as much as you want and you'll never get tired. Then I noticed that the landscape was gradually becoming familiar. It seemed as if I had been here before. I remembered what was on the other side of the mountains. Then, with a sudden burst of joy, I realized that this was my real home. Back on Earth, I had just been a visitor, a misfit, and a homesick stranger, and with a sigh of relief, I said to myself, "Thank God I'm back again. This time, I'll stay." Then the oldest man, who looked like a Greek god, continued to explain, "Everything over here is pure. The elements don't mix or break down as they do on Earth. Everything is kept in place by an all-pervading master vibration, which prevents aging. That's why things don't get dirty or wear out, and why everything looks so bright and new." Then I understood how heaven could be eternal. Next, I noticed that I was loving everything and everybody, and that it was making me intensely happy. Apparently, only the good in me had survived. Without the bad, I was happy beyond anything I had ever known. My next question was, how do you explain this intense happiness? Your thoughts are vibrations which are controlled by the master vibration. It neutralizes all negative thoughts and lets you think only the good thoughts, such as love, freedom, and happiness. Then, what becomes of the old grouches? If they are too bad, they go to a realm of lower vibrations where their kind of thoughts can live. If they came here, the master vibration would annihilate them. After death, people gravitate into homogeneous groups according to the rate of the soul's vibration. If the percent of discord in a person is small, it can be eliminated by the master vibration. Then the remaining good can live on here. For example, if a person were 70% good and 30% bad, the bad could be eliminated by the master vibration. No one sends you anywhere. You are sorted by the high or low vibrations of your very own soul. Everyone goes where he fits in. High vibrations indicate love and spiritual development, while low vibrations indicate debasement and evil. When I asked what a person should do while on Earth to make it better for him when he dies, he answered, "All you can do is to develop along the lines of unselfish love. People don't come here because of their good deeds, or because they believe in this or that, but because they fit in and belong. Good deeds are a natural result of being good, and bad deeds are the natural result of being bad. Each carries its own reward and punishment. It's what you are that counts." While we talked, my mind, or whatever I had to think with, became crystal clear. Instantly and without effort, I could remember everything I had ever known. I seemed to understand the earth and all about it. The whole scheme of life was as plain as day. Everything on earth has its purpose. It's all fitted into the pattern, which, in the end, will work out for justice and good. People worry because of their incomplete viewpoints. They don't realize that trouble is nature's way of teaching lessons that won't be learned otherwise. From other people's troubles, we could avoid most of our own. While we were still talking and I was enjoying the ecstasy of heaven, my friend gently announced, "You can't stay here any longer. You have to go back to Earth." Back to Earth? Oh no, not back to that horrible place. But already I was leaving this beautiful land and slipping back into my body. Still enough in heaven to have no inhibitions, and yet far enough back into my body to have terrible thoughts. Like a kid having a tantrum, and I was screaming, let me stay, but my protesting did no good. As I moved further back into my body, there was a painful, prickly feeling all over. I also felt a crowded feeling, as if the real me was having to compress itself back into its hateful prison. The last thing the strong man said to me was, "You have more important work to do on earth, and you must go back and do it. There will come a time of great confusion, and the people will need your stabilizing influence. When your work on earth is done, you can come back here and stay." Arthur Jensen's documented death experience ends right there, but what follows next are the questions that people always asked him and managed to document. They asked, "Can you tell us a little more about heaven?" Jensen's response was, "Heaven is really hard to describe in Earth language because our words aren't adequate to describe things beyond our imaginations. However, the heaven I saw is characterized by its vivid greenness, its crystalline cleanliness, and its newness, its all-pervading music, and its overall beauty, all of which are maintained by the master vibration. It is a vigorous, lively place with overflowing happiness that's uncontainable. It's an over-answer to everything we should have, and so far as I know, it's a final home for the soul. I can tell you it is not a place of rest as many people tried to picture it, because no one there gets tired. It's more like a new lease of life. No one could possibly use all of the bubbling energy that wells up from his diaphragm. It's a lively, hilarious place that's unbelievably sweet, serene and melodious. The people there reminded me of uninhibited, carefree children before well-meaning adults work them over. In heaven, where all people really love each other, there are no inhibitions or no need for them. Everyone does exactly as he pleases. This works out well because only the best in each person survives, and good is all anyone wants to do. This allows freedom and happiness that people on earth just cannot imagine. On earth, we need thousands of laws and inhibitions to keep order. For some people, these restrictions are so severe that they become depressed, which may cause them to commit suicide. But in heaven, where there are no restrictions, people want to live forever. Another question that was put towards Jensen was, "What can you tell us about hell?" Jensen's reply was clear, "Not much, but I hear it's a cool place." He continued to describe it as love is a fast vibration of the soul, while hate is a slower vibration in comparison. He continues, "It's a place where everyone retains their physical desires without a way to satisfy them. For example, the glutton can't eat because he has no physical body. The alcoholic can't drink for the same reason. Neither can the smoker smoke, nor the drug addict get a fix. The miser can't protect his money, and the sex maniac who doesn't believe in love finds it impossible to fulfill his lust. Without physical bodies, feelings of hate and fear are intensified. Their only hope is to reincarnate. Unfortunately, when they do, they may forget all about their torment in hell and again lead lives of greed and tyranny. This miserable cycle can continue forever, unless they find salvation in one of their lifetimes. Such people really need a savior, since they are not able to help themselves. Another question which was asked to Jensen about his near-death experience was, how does a person get ahead in the next world? His reply was this: you don't. There is no place in heaven for discontent or personal ambition. If everyone completely understood the afterlife, then they'd quit trying to keep up with the Joneses and start learning how to live unselfishly. Here, we can change ourselves quite easily, and we should use this life to make ourselves into the kind of person we want to be in the hereafter. This world is a miserable place for anyone who hasn't learned internal harmony, which is characterized by unselfish love. Mankind is like a chain. What one does affects us all. we should try to strengthen our weakest links. In heaven, as far as I could tell, all people do is enjoy themselves. They're like children who don't demand work in order to be happy. He continues by saying, we came into this world, the earth, to have trouble and to learn from it. Unfortunately, many people don't realize this, and they just complain about their bad luck and spend their lives chasing pleasure, fame and money. Then they die without making any spiritual progress, and so they waste life after life. It should be obvious that all we take with us is our character, our karma and our abilities, and that we'll have to live with people like ourselves. Therefore, our highest success would be to rise into the highest heaven through unselfish love, and our most dismal failure would be to hate ourselves out of existence, if that was even possible. Another important question that was asked by the people back in the day was, why didn't you mention God and salvation? Again, his reply was quite honest. I didn't omit them intentionally. It's only that I didn't see God, Christ, or hear anything about salvation. However, I do consider the master vibration as part of God because it controls the universe and seems to regulate everything except the evil minds of people on earth. To understand God, I believe one would have to be almost as great as God is, or at least be like Christ, who was in harmony with God. All one has to do is to love so unselfishly that his soul vibrations will rise enough to fit him into heaven. Another question documented was, what is a sin? And his answer is quite clever. As he says, sin is anything that stops spiritual growth. The three great sins are not learning from experience, letting leadership turn into tyranny, and letting selfishness turn into greed. Everyone should constantly check themselves for developing greed, tyranny, fear, worry, anger, hate, jealousy, and especially guilt. By conquering these harmful traits, we keep in tune with our oversouls, our guardian angels. Sin is anything that causes us to lose this contact. When the subconscious mind feels guilty, it is a shame to face its oversoul and builds up barriers to shut it out. Without the oversoul to guide it, such a person is like a child lost, or the only hope it has to get rid of the guilt is to reconnect with its oversoul. Another question asked was, how are we saved? His answer was by unselfish love. When we love unselfishly, our vibrations are so high that the only place we'll fit into is heaven. There is no other place we can go if we want to. This is divine justice because it gives all the people who ever lived, as well as the higher animals who know right from wrong, an equal chance to eventually attain eternal harmony, which will fit them into some kind of heaven, regardless of their intelligence, education, ignorance, wealth, or poverty. He was asked if he believed in the devil. He said no, but if there was one, he would have to be an insane angel who was crazy enough to fight with God, which would be as futile as for us to try to stop the sunrise. I believe the devil is a mythological character invented by humans and used for a scapegoat. He said that he does believe, though, that there are earthbound spirits of lower vibrations whom we may regard as devils because they annoy us through mental telepathy. These demons tune in on us through our low vibrations of hate, fear, and greed. We can tune them out with unselfish love, or, if necessary, be chased away by the strongest spirit of Jesus Christ. He was asked the question if he believed in predestination or free will. He said that he believed in both, since they had told him that he had destiny, so why wouldn't anyone else have one? Obviously, our brains can only know what we've recorded in them, but Our oversouls know all about us. That's why they try to guide us and keep us in our bodies until our life work is finished. Just like we try to stay in our cars until we reach our destinations. Yet, we all have free will. Any of us can get drunk and drive into a telephone pole. He was also asked, "What is God like?" He said that he didn't know because he didn't see him, but he did feel a master vibration which must be a part of God because it kept everything in good order and controlled the universe. Maybe it was the Holy Spirit. On asking what is karma, his reply was that karma is the totality of all our actions, good and bad, which determine our fate or destiny. If we do only good things, we will eventually run out of bad karma and only good things will happen to us, and vice versa. The purpose of karma is to force us to learn life's lessons whether we want to or not. Between lives with the great knowledge of our oversouls, we choose the next life that we are going to live and how much karma we are going to meet and settle. For example, if you abused animals or people in one life, your oversoul would probably cause you to reincarnate into a situation that made you realize the misery that you caused others. The only way to bypass karma is to develop so much unselfish love that paying for bad karma will serve no purpose, much like a college student challenging a course he already knows. He was asked what I think to be the biggest question of all. Do you believe in reincarnation? Jensen said that he was convinced that we have all lived and died many times. The reason we don't remember our former lives is because our vast soul memories are not transferred to our baby brains at birth. All we know in this life is what we have learned in past lifetimes. That would be the reason why some things are so much easier for us to learn than others. For example, Mozart didn't have to learn music because he already knew it. One of the good things about reincarnation is that at the beginning of each lifetime, we are cleared of all past prejudices, learning blocks, and wrong teachings, and we're ready to start afresh. Just like a new term at school, and like school, when we have learned enough of life's lessons, we graduate and we don't have to come back to this earth. We don't have to come back to school, except perhaps as volunteers or as teachers. Since our opportunities for spiritual growth on this planet are probably limited time-wise, we should realize that in dealing with children, the learning value of any incarnation can be spoiled by indoctrination before the child is old enough to reason. In some cases, this is worse than murder because it may waste a whole lifetime instead of just a few years. I think this is a fascinating documented piece of work by Jensen. A little bit more about Jensen. Jensen was born in Nebraska during the blizzard of 1898. He later became an educator, public speaker, was active in politics, specialized in historical sculpture, was a movie extra in several Hollywood films, an authority on organic gardening and nutrition, and was singled out as one of Idaho's most distinguished citizens. Although a public figure, Jensen was frequently at odds with the school boards where he taught, opposing any procedure that capped a child's creative drive, speaking out against the incarceration of American citizens, and ignoring school rules by sharing his near-death experience in class as proof to his students that mortality matters and life really has a purpose. Ironically, Jensen was still questioning whether or not he had fulfilled his life's work when he eventually did return home. So that's it, Arthur Jensen's near-death experience. I think this has been one of the most compelling cases documented. 1932, things like this weren't documented, so it really sticks out to me, like that he did go public with it. What are your comments? What do you think? Really interesting, yeah. Anyway, That's enough from myself, Anthony Larkin, signing out. Before I do, I would personally like to say thank you again to the 501 subscribers. I'm just so thankful. Thank you so much. I look forward to narrating the next video for you. And yeah, tune in, hopefully. I will see you again soon. Take care.